Posted by you/cynichappy. My name is Tara, and I am the youngest of my parents' 3 daughters. However, I only grew up with one sister. Katya, the middle child, died when I was just a baby. I have no memories of her, and growing up, I didn't even know much about her death. All anyone ever told me was that she'd been in an accident. Until last night. Mom called me out of the blue, crying and telling me to come over right away. I drove out to the house and found her and Dad in the living room, looking pale and grim. "Tara, honey," said Mom, "sit down. We have to talk to you." "What's going on?" "It's about Katya." My legs went numb, and I lowered myself into an armchair. "What do you mean? What's going on?" Mom began to cry, and Dad took over. "It's been 23 years. Joanna has a husband and children, and you're engaged to be married. We can't keep it a secret anymore. You deserve to know what really happened to Katya. Tell me." "It's a long story, Tara. And it all started when your sister was only a baby." My sister Katya was born on July 1, 1984. 2 days later, my parents brought her home. They'd already had one child, my oldest sister, Joanna, and were overjoyed at having a new addition to the family. Katya was a beautiful baby, and everyone who met her loved her. Mom first noticed the car when Katya was about a week old. It was a rusted red truck with tinted windows and no license plate, and it would randomly appear in different locations around the neighborhood. Sometimes, it would drive back and forth along the road, slowing to a crawl as it passed my parents' house. Of course, my parents were creeped out, but just as suddenly as the car had shown up, it vanished. Busy with work and raising their children, they soon forgot about it until September. In the days leading up to the incident, Joanna had been talking about lightning flashing outside her window. Since there had been no recent storms in the area, my parents just assumed she was either dreaming or witnessing some kind of optical illusion. Both would come to regret not taking Joanna's claims seriously. On the night of September 20, 1984, both my parents were woken up by Joanna screaming and Katya crying. They burst into the girls' shared room and found Joanna sitting up in bed, pointing at the window and babbling on about a witch watching her sleep. While Mom did her best to console the girls, Dad went to check the window. The lock had been broken, and there was a handprint on the glass. Dad took a Polaroid photo of that handprint, and has kept it to this very day. He showed it to me last night, and it terrified me. The handprint doesn't look human, the fingers are way too long and pointed. Back to the story, Dad called the police, who came and did a thorough search of the house and surrounding property. They questioned neighbors and tried talking to Joanna, but couldn't get much out of her. With nothing to go on, the case went cold before it even took off. After that incident, things seemed to calm down a bit. Eventually, my family fell into an uneasy sense of peace, believing the witch wouldn't come back. 6 months later, an unmarked package appeared on the doorstep. It was wrapped in nondescript brown paper and tied with frayed string. Inside was a box filled with Polaroid photos. Most of them were of Katya sleeping in her crib, being pushed in her stroller, playing with a wooden spoon in her high chair. A few were of Joanna, and of the house. But it was the photo at the very bottom that really terrified my parents. It was a close-up shot of the face of an old woman. Her skin was translucently pale, with a map of blue veins running beneath it. Her gray eyes were huge, the pupils dilated, and she wore a deranged grin. Again, the police were called. Again, they searched the area and spoke to anyone who would talk. This time, some of the neighbors reported seeing an old woman lurking around. They all described her as having long white hair and giving off an eerie vibe. My parents were pretty sure she was the same old lady as in the photo, but no one could prove anything. The investigation lasted about a week, and during that time, the phone calls began. They were from an unknown number and usually consisted of heavy breathing. Sometimes, a raspy voice could be heard singing nursery rhymes. Even after my parents changed their number more than once, the calls kept coming. This went on for 4 years. Until I came along, and Katya was taken from us. In 1989, Mom gave birth to her third child, me. By then, the mysterious phone calls had been coming for 4 years, but seemed to be petering out a bit. My family had moved into a new house in the next neighborhood over, hoping for a fresh start. Things were looking up. Sadly, it was only an illusion. On a late August night, Katya was stolen. She was only 5 years old. Now, this part of the story is a little hazy, since it's very painful for Mom and Dad to recount. What I do know is that they were woken up by a terrible crash and found the window to Katya's bedroom shattered. Blood splattered the sheets and floor, and trickled down the side of the house. "Katya!" Mom screamed. "Katya!" There were no witnesses. No fingerprints. Nothing but the blood trail and broken glass. Katya's shredded, boot-soaked nightgown was found in a wooded area 5 miles from the house. Her body itself never turned up, but the police believed she was dead. To this day, my parents still blame the cops. If those assholes had only done something the first time, maybe Katya would still be with us, said Dad. The bitterness in his voice made me flinch. Do you believe she's dead? I whispered. I do. But only because the alternative is too horrible for me to contemplate. In the short time since my parents told me the truth, I've become obsessed. I believe there is still something they aren't telling me, and I wanted to find out as much as possible. Tomorrow, I'm visiting Joanna, and I plan to ask her if she remembers anything. She probably does. I just hope she is willing to talk about it. If anything more comes up, I'll update. Things are really crazy right now, so it might be a while. I just hope I can find some closure. Until next time. Tara.